Chapter 5. It was almost noon when the phone rang Sunday morning. I looked at the screen as I picked up my PCD, checking to see who it was. The picture and the name on the device told me it was Brandon. I wished for a moment I could stay mad at him, but I'd never been able to manage it for very long. I touched the button to answer the call. "Hello?" I asked, lifting the small device to my ear. "Hey Nickie, how are you doing?" "Pretty good, all things considered. I have the occasional moment of thinking I've dreamed it all, but I know better. There are some things I just can't deny, even to myself." He laughed on the other end of the line, and I continued, "It certainly doesn't help things that there's no trace of the bite left." "Really? Already? No scar, nothing?" He sounded surprised. "Nothing at all, they were gone by bedtime that night." "Wow. Does the Anikitos know?" "Yeah. I told him when I talked to him yesterday. You know, the way you're calling him the Anikitos is bizarre. He's always just been Bill to me." "You'll get used to it. Most of the pack calls him either Sir or Anikitos, only a few people have permission to call him by name. I guess it's just weird." "I'm certain it won't be the weirdest thing you'll encounter now that you know about us," he said with a laugh. "I'm sure that's true, but let's not rush things. Let me get used to what's on my plate right now before you throw something even weirder at me." I laughed back. "I'm just going to say it, I'm not happy that you kept it from me. I understand why, so you get a pass on this one. But no more big secrets. Got it?" "If you say so," he said, then changed the subject. "Have you noticed any other signs that you're adjusting?" "Yeah, I keep picking up odd scents," I replied, accepting the change of subject. "Sometimes they're strong, sometimes they're just something out of place. I've started noticing that everyone has a unique scent, one that no matter what they've done, what scent they might wear, they always have the unique scent as well." "Yes, everyone has their own personal scent, and eventually, with practice and repetition, you'll learn to catalog and sort the different scents, and then you'll just automatically know whose scent it is when you smell them." "I'll keep that in mind. While we're talking about senses, what about hearing? Oh my word. I sometimes wonder if it's going to make me crazy being able to hear what they're saying in the next apartment or the one on the other side of that, even the one below me. When I first noticed it, I thought I was imagining it, but Bill told me I probably wasn't." "Probably not, but you'll get used to it. It'll take some practice, but you'll learn to tune out or focus on something you don't mind hearing. You might want to consider finding a different place, something not in a shared building." "I don't want to, if I can help it. I love this place. I don't want to give it up if I don't have to. Besides, it would raise a lot of questions with my family and most of my friends if I suddenly move for no reason." "True. I'll do what I can to learn to ignore it and continue with my life. It's odd though. There have even been a few times I would swear I was hearing not only what people were saying, but what they were thinking too, but I know that's impossible." "Actually, it's not. It's possible that you're telepathic. You need to let the Anikitos or the Electo know next time you talk to one of them. They'll have someone teach you to shield. That'll help you keep from hearing random thoughts." "I'll be sure to say something about it then. What I'm having the most trouble with is sleeping. I'm just not used to being able to hear people in the courtyard from my bed. I used to turn on the radio, it helped to drown out some of the extra noise, but you have to keep it very, very quiet or it'll be distracting too. Or you can put an old-fashioned clock in your room if you can find one. One of the old wind-up ones, and at bedtime you focus on the ticking. Concentrate on hearing that and only that. Any kind of white noise will probably work, a fan and ocean's waves or a similar recording set to play all night. You have a lot more noise to learn to ignore than most do. Living in that apartment, most just have their families to deal with, but the principles are the same. It'll help that you're on the top floor and not on the bottom or middle. I'll have to try one of those, thanks for the ideas." I swear I've tossed and turned both nights. Every creak and groan, every step on the stairs outside woke me. Between that and the headache from the music last night, I'm ripped. I've had almost no rest since Friday. Music? Wait a minute, what did you do last night? He was suddenly suspicious. I went out dancing with Izzy. You went to a nightclub within 48 hours of your first change? Brandon was astonished. And you didn't leave with your ears bleeding? No, but by the time I called it a night, I had a massive headache. Sometimes the music sounded almost normal, but sometimes it was like I was inside the drum, inside the music, and it was tearing me apart. I'll bet. Didn't the Anikitos tell you that your hearing would be sensitive? Not in those words, but he told me my hearing would improve. It never occurred to me the nightclub would affect me like that. Plus, Izzy and I have been planning on going out for a couple months, and one or the other of us just hasn't been able to make it. I couldn't cancel on her again. And Nickie, being Nickie, will do whatever she pleases. Well, that too, I grinned, even though I knew he couldn't see it. Did he warn you about your strength? Not until I called him yesterday morning, having already had an encounter with it. What did you break? What makes you so sure I broke something? Number 1, I know you, remember? Number 2, been there, done that. Just a glass. I managed to cut myself while I was at it, but it healed in just a couple of minutes, so it was no big deal. Oh, and the doorknob to my bathroom no longer locks. Apparently, that happens when they get twisted too hard. Brandon was laughing hard on the other end of the line and was unable to answer. It really isn't that funny. Actually, you've done less damage so far than a lot of the first-timers do. Oh. Yeah, I mean, just think about it a second. Most first-timers are teenagers and have the hormones and tempers. Oh dear, I can imagine. I remember how much of a terror I was at that age, without the extra strength to aid things along. So, how much damage did you do? Let's see, I broke the glass out of Mom's back door, twice. I knocked my bedroom door off the hinges. I had this thing for slamming doors. It's amazing how not having a bedroom door for a couple weeks will cure you of something like that. Sarcasm all but dripped from his voice. It was my turn to do the laughing, and Brandon, unable to help himself, joined in. Anyway, he said, still gasping for breath. You're doing pretty well. How about next weekend we go for a run? This time both of us can go on 4 legs. I don't know. Do you have other plans? Well, no. I didn't have to lie to Brandon. I could just tell him I didn't want to go, but that wasn't the case. I did want to, I was just nervous about shifting again. So why wouldn't we? Well, he must have heard something in my voice. Nickie, have you shifted since we were out on Friday? No, why would I? You're afraid to shift again, aren't you? Not afraid exactly. I trailed off. After a moment's hesitation, I blurted it out. But what if I can't do it on purpose? What if it was just a freak thing? Or even worse, what if I can make it to wolf and not back to human again? I heard him take a deep breath and let it out slowly, looking for the right words before he spoke again. Nickie, if you're strong enough to shift back to human with the instructions I gave you and no other help, then you're perfectly strong enough to shift on your own, anytime you want. I can't shift alone, at least not at first. I need a spotter, someone who can call for help if I can't shift back. Okay, I guess I can understand. What time do you have to be to your parents this evening? No later than 6. Why? I'll be there in 15 minutes. That'll give us more than 5 hours for you into shift to your wolf and back again, and even get the Anikitos or Harmonia to come help if you need it, before you have to be at your parents'. Are you sure we should do this today? We can't wait? Yes, we need to do it today. No waiting. The sooner the better, the longer you wait, the harder it'll be to convince you. I guess. Good, now pull a couple of the steaks from the freezer. I know you have some. I'll be there soon. Okay, I guess I'll see you then. I set down my already disconnected PCD on the table. Not sure what else to do, I did as Brandon had asked. I pulled a couple of steaks from the freezer and dropped them into a bowl of warm water to thaw while I waited for him. It wasn't long, and when his knock sounded on the door, I jumped. I was so lost in thought I hadn't heard his footsteps coming up the stairs. I knew it was Brandon before I opened the door to find him standing there, patiently waiting to be let inside. I motioned him through the doorway and turned, watching him step into my apartment before he closed the door behind him. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. "I'm not sure." I clenched my hands together, "but it can't hurt. I've got no excuses now, and you're right, I'll be better off to do it now than to continue to put it off. So what's first?" "Well," he said slowly, "you have two choices. You can either change into something you don't mind being destroyed, or you can do what the rest of us do, and just take off your clothes first. Because just like your clothes the other day on the trail, when you shift, whatever you're wearing is destroyed." That was more than a little unsettling. I'm a modest person. While sure I might wear things like leather knee boots and booty shorts out dancing, there was relatively little skin showing. I just wasn't one to wander around in little to no clothing. I wasn't sure I could handle the lack of clothing, not just for me but for everyone. "Are you sure?" I held out hope that he was trying to pull one over on me. "Sorry," he said. "I can make this a little easier for you if you'd like. How about I tell you what you need to do, then you go into the bedroom, strip, and shift. I want you to come out once you're in wolf form, though. Once you're in wolf form, I want you to come out, though. I want to see you in wolf form to make sure you made the shift with no problems. After that, anytime you're ready, I'll fire up the grill while you try to shift back. Once you're human again, I'll toss the steaks on. Then I'll answer any questions while we eat." "Why are you so obsessed with eating?" "I'm going to my parents', and if I don't eat there, they'll know something's up." I latched onto my evening's dinner plans rather than focusing on the shifting I was expected to tackle momentarily. Because shifting takes energy. Shifting once takes a lot of energy, and shifting twice takes at least double that. After you've shifted twice, you'll be starving. Remember how hungry you were Friday? It won't be quite as bad because you won't be doing the healing too, but trust me, you'll want something to eat. Eating now will keep you from eating more than normal in front of your family in a few hours. That hadn't occurred to me. So, I'll fix something to eat, if you don't mind my invading your kitchen for a few minutes while you practice shifting. Okay, I guess. I was reluctant, not that I minded Brandon in my kitchen. He was a good friend and spent a lot of time there, but something just didn't feel right. But as he started to explain what I needed to do, I dismissed my misgivings and listened. Good, now the first step is to sit or bend down. It's possible to shift while standing, but it's easier if you don't have to, especially at first. Then it's the reverse of shifting to human, which you already know how to do. You just picture your wolf form and will yourself to take that shape. That's it? That's it. It may take a few minutes to manage it at first, but it gets faster with practice. Okay, let me repeat this back and make sure I have it clear. I picture my wolf form, a large wolf with fur the same color as my hair. By the way, are all kitsune wolves the same color as their hair? No, you just happen to be, which will make it easier for you. Okay, so I picture my wolf form and simply wish myself into it? Not just wish but will. You need to want to be the wolf, and concentrate on wanting to be the wolf. Your skin will tingle and feel really strange, like it did last time, and then you'll be the wolf. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Okay, I think I'm ready to try this, wish me luck. Good luck. I'll be in the kitchen, working on food. Join me once you're in your wolf form. You know where it is, make yourself at home. I went through the doorway into my bedroom. I pushed the door until it was touching, but not latched. My skin felt tight, I was nervous. I wasn't sure I could shift into my wolf form on purpose, at least not alone. Slowly, I took off my clothes and folded them, before stacking them in a neat pile on the foot of my bed. Once I was ready, I bent down until one knee rested on the floor next to my other foot. I leaned forward until my chest pressed against my upraised knee and placed my hands on the floor, just in front of the knee and foot supporting my weight. Closing my eyes, I pictured a large wolf, one with soft auburn fur just the color of my hair. I wanted to be that wolf. I needed to be the wolf. I felt the tingling start, the almost stinging sensation all over my skin, and then the bones and muscles in my body started to shift. The strange sensations almost broke my concentration, but I remembered it was something that should be happening, and refused to let it distract me. It was more painful to shift on purpose. Or maybe not being in shock from the snake bite, I was less distracted and noticed it more. When the shifting and tingling finally subsided, I opened my eyes. I didn't feel any different. Wondering if it worked, I looked down at myself and found I was covered in shaggy fur. Carefully walking over to the full-length mirrors attached to my closet doors, I inspected my new body. I was large for a wolf, and the same deep red-brown color of my hair. There was no way I would be mistaken for someone's dog, unless there was some huge Red Cross breed roaming around I didn't know about. I scratched at the bottom of my bedroom door enough to get my nose in the crack and swing it open. As I left my room, I marveled at the different perspective of my apartment in this form. I went into the kitchen where I could smell the potatoes Brandon had started cooking in the microwave and the seasonings he was putting on the steaks. It all smelled so good. I heard him rattling things in one of the cabinets at the other end of the room. I walked over and used my nose to nudge the hand that was resting on the top of the cabinet door. He jumped. Brandon must have been concentrating on what he was looking for, not to notice my nails clicking on the vinyl floor. "Oh. You did it. Great." I snorted at him, "Thank you, Captain Obvious." "Hey," he laughed, "that wasn't nice." I sat shocked. I hadn't intended for him to hear that. "I guess we can say for sure about that telepathy now, huh? I might as well make use of it. Do you have any corn?" "Yeah, it's in the cabinet over the microwave." "Great, I'll fix that too. You can stay like that for a while, or you can go shift back. It's up to you." "I think I'll go shift back, thanks. I'll be back in a minute." I turned for the bedroom. Once in my room, I sat in the spot where I had started earlier and concentrated for a few moments on shifting back into human form. When the tingling stopped, I stood up and dressed. When I left the bedroom, I found Brandon standing on my balcony in front of the grill. The scent of the steaks cooking made my stomach growl. "Wow. Those smell great." "I told you, shifting twice takes a lot of calories and you need to replace them. These are almost done. Can you go grab a plate to put them on? We'll separate them and add the rest in there." After shutting off the grill, Brandon carried the plate into the kitchen. "Just have a seat and let me finish here." He dished the steaks onto separate plates and added the other things. "You shouldn't be waiting on me in my own kitchen, Brandon. How about I get the drinks?" "Sounds good. What do you want?" "Tea would be great if you have any, if not, I'll take a soda." You know me, if there's no tea in the house it's almost a catastrophe. I pulled out 2 plastic cups and filled them with ice before adding the tea. "You'll have to live with plastic, 'cause I'm not risking handling any more glass for a while." He chuckled, "Not a problem." I put cups on the table in front of the 2 chairs, then grabbed flatware and napkins out of the drawer for both of us. I was headed back to the table as Brandon set both plates next to the glasses. We took our seats and ate. I was surprised at how hungry I was and how quickly I devoured the food. "Are you more comfortable about shifting now?" Brandon asked in between bites. "Some. I'm less afraid of suddenly shifting and being stuck in wolf form now. That's something." I shrugged one shoulder. It'll get easier with practice. If you try, you can learn to shift fast enough to change in mid-leap. Really? Yep. I can't do it, but I've seen it done. I have to admit. It would be cool, I said. It would be cool, he said. You're gonna want to work on your reluctance to be undressed in front of others, though. It isn't that the kindred are immodest exactly. It's more that we're comfortable with casual nudity. We learn not to make an issue of it. Really? I wasn't sure I could become so casual about it. Think about it this way. We often run in groups. Several of us will meet somewhere very rural and shift, running in wolf form together, then shifting back before heading back into town. No bedrooms and no restrooms to change in. I guess it makes sense, but still. I know. The idea is new to you. It makes you uncomfortable. Think about it for a while, get used to the idea. I'll try. We ate in a comfortable silence for a few minutes. When we'd both finished our meal, we cleaned our plates, loading them into the empty dishwasher, before going into the living room to sit down. Brandon broke the silence. You're going to want to tell Bill about the telepathy. He'll most likely assign someone to work with you and help you develop it. I'll tell him, but I'll probably wait until tomorrow. I'm supposed to see if I can get some time off and then see him in the morning if I can. If not, I'll call him and let him know. We visited for a while longer before Brandon left, and I started getting ready for the weekly family dinner at my parents' house. I changed into something a little nicer than what I wore around the house and took the time to comb out my hair on my way out the door. Sunday dinner at my parents' house is mandatory for everyone. The only acceptable excuses if you are in town are sudden serious illness and death. Yours. That Sunday, I'd planned to arrive a little early so I could help Mom with the last of the cooking. When I arrived at the house, I didn't bother knocking. None of us kids did before letting myself in. I called out as I closed the door to let them know it was me. They both came to greet me, stepping out of different rooms but with the same purpose in mind. My mother popped out of the kitchen while my father had a bit farther to come from the living room at the end of the short hallway. While hugging my mother, I noticed she carried the scents of yeast and cinnamon with her. They were like a soft dusting on the surface of her skin, which held a natural lemony scent, and it made me wonder briefly what she'd made for dessert. My father's customary bear hug smelled of soil and the oils and fuels his tractors often smelled of. It hovered over the sweet, almost sugary scent that seemed to come directly from his skin. After greeting them both, I followed my mother into the kitchen while my father returned to the living room to the baseball game. How has your week been? Mom asked as we got to work. Busy, I said. Work mostly, but I went hiking with Brandon on Friday, spent some time with Izzy on Saturday. How is Brandon doing these days? She asked. Pretty good. He's still working up at the mine, but he's on his 7-day, so our days off lined up, and we were able to do something for the first time in a while. I was referring to the week off that all the shift workers at the mine get once a month. That's nice. How are his parents? Good, as far as I know. He hasn't mentioned them in a while, and I didn't think to ask. We visited a few minutes longer before my sister Brittany and her family arrived. I stepped out into the hall to see them. The kids were in their usual wild animal state of excitement. If I didn't know better, I would have thought they hadn't seen their grandparents in months instead of the matter of days that it had been. They were excited to see me too. I like to think of myself as their favorite aunt. They knew that when Aunt Nickie was around, there would always be something fun happening. What could I say? I loved the little heathens and did as much as I could with them. I often picked them up and took them to the park for a couple hours of exhausting fun when I could make the time. But I'd admit that at the end of the outing, I was glad I could take them home to their mama and retire to the peace and quiet of my own apartment. I picked up 4-year-old Jimmy as he raced by and swung him up above my head. He squealed and laughed before I lowered him until I could hug and kiss his squirming body. I inhaled the clean, grassy scent of the little boy, savoring the freshness. He swiftly escaped the baby kisses and ran off to see what mischief he could get into as soon as I set him back on the floor. Standing, I reached over and took the baby, 1-year-old Tammy, from my sister. I tickled and snuggled her too before settling her on one hip as I hugged her tight. She had the clean scent of her shampoo like a halo around her. She also smelled of a sweet strawberry candy scent, and something in me told me it wasn't an added scent like her shampoo, it was just her. Leaving my sister in the kitchen talking to Mom, I carried Tammy into the living room to see Grandpa and say hello to Tracy. Once the kids had climbed all over and said their hellos to my father, I took them over to the corner of the room and we dug through the basket of toys Mom kept for them. Many of the toys were leftovers from when we were young. There were a couple of favorites from each of us kids in the basket, though there were plenty of newer toys mixed in. It made me feel good to see my niece and nephew enjoying the toys I had loved as a child. The kids soon chose a bucket of large plastic building blocks, and I sat on the floor building with them for a few minutes. Once they were both engrossed in their creations, I left them under their father's watchful eye and rejoined my mother and sister in the kitchen. I walked into the room in time to hear Brittany say, "She said she's been seeing him for a few months. I think she really likes him. If things continue to go this well, she may bring him down the next time she comes." "Who?" I asked. "Pace," she said, referring to our sister Payson. Pace wouldn't be here tonight because she could only afford to make the trip from Tucson, where she lived, about once every month or 6 weeks, and this wasn't one of those weeks. "That'll be nice. I look forward to meeting her new guy. She hasn't brought anyone home in quite a while." I went back washing the dishes that had been used. "It will be good to see her and him too, if she decides to bring him," Mom said. "I miss you all when you're not around." I told her to bring him, that we'd like to meet him, so who knows if she will, Britt continued. "And I think Cam's serious about Janelle. Like maybe ring serious." Cam was Cameron, one of our brothers. He had been seeing Janelle for a couple of years. Currently, Brittany was the only one of us kids who'd married or had kids, and she'd been eager since she found wedded bliss to see the rest of us that way. A few minutes later, right at 6 o'clock, Rain walked in the front door. He made the rounds, kissing Mom and hugging Britt and I before he went into the living room to see everyone there. But after just a few minutes, he came back into the kitchen. He insisted Mom have a seat and just visit while he took over her share of the dinner prep. I stopped what I was doing and stood looking at my brother. Something was different about him, but I couldn't put my finger on it. He looked the same as he normally did. His long dark hair was pulled back in a neat braid that hung halfway down his back. His face had the rounded features of those with predominantly European ancestry, except for his chiseled cheekbones, though his skin was much darker. It was obvious, at least to me, that he had a mixed heritage. I'd never been able to figure out exactly what mixture, but then I'd never actually asked either. I kept my attention on him too long and he noticed. "What's up, Trouble?" he asked, using an old family nickname. "I'm not sure." I continued to look at him. "Something's different, but I can't place it." That grabbed my mother and Britt's attention, and they started trying to spot some difference in Rain. "Don't know what it could be, nothing's changed. I haven't even changed shampoos in months." He lifted one brow as he looked at me. "I don't know either, but I know it's something." "I can't see anything different, Nickie," Mom said. "Me either," Brittany put in. It suddenly occurred to me that maybe it wasn't that something about him had changed, but that I was now picking up something I'd always missed. That perhaps I'm the one who had changed. I'm probably just imagining it. I let the topic drop and went about setting the table for dinner. I finished filling the glasses and cups with ice while Brittany set the roast and sides on the table and Rain added the salad and dressing. Cameron showed up just as we were about to call the rest of the family to the table. He was just late enough that Dad would chew him out about it later. Like a typical sibling, I was just glad it wasn't me who was in line for that ass chewing. I hugged Cam hello, noting the scent of leather which seemed to come from his skin, and the sweat from his day which was a thin coating over it. It made me think back and realize when I had hugged Rain I had smelled leather, but it was different. It wasn't his scent, it was just the scent of the leather he spent so much time carrying as part of his uniform. Rain's skin had an almond scent to it, the sharp tang of sage mixed with the gentler, milder aroma of oregano, and again I wondered exactly what it was about him that seemed so different now. We gathered around the table and took our seats. My father bowed his head and blessed the meal before we all dug in. "I'm sorry I was so late. I planned to be here earlier but got called in this morning. I got off with just enough time to rush home and change. If I had been 5 minutes later, I would have shown up in my uniform," Cam said. "I thought you were supposed to be off today?" Mom asked. "I was, but there was a 3-car accident coming off the mountain, and they called me in to help cover." "That's too bad. Anyone we know?" "Nah, no one local, and no fatalities, but they had to fly a couple out to Tucson. They'll probably live, but they were pretty bad off." "So what happened?" Cam asked. "Driver thought he knew a lot more about mountain driving than he did, and I was stuck behind the backup the accident caused." I heard a voice in my head. "I wish we could talk about something happier during dinner." "How's Janelle?" I turned to Cam. "She's good. I would have brought her tonight, but she just got off an 18-hour shift, and she was so tired she was slurring her words," Cam said. "I'm sure that a good night's sleep will set her right. 18 hours is a long shift," Mom put in. "It is. Someone called in sick and she stayed to cover their shift. The money's good, but it exhausts you." We had a good meal and used the time to catch up with each other. Shiloh was still in Flagstaff going to school. She had opted to take a summer class and stay there to make it a little bit faster to get her degree. It also meant that she could have her pick of apartments in the area when most of the other students cleared out for the summer. This meant she wouldn't be at dinner that night, or much at all for a while yet. I guess, now that we were adults with lives of our own, 4 out of 6 wasn't a bad average for Sunday dinner, but I did miss my sisters and I'd be glad when they were both home again. I always enjoyed Sunday evenings with my family, but it felt off tonight. I think it was mostly that I wanted to tell them the latest with me. I knew I couldn't, and I was afraid even if I could, how would they react? I was having a hard enough time dealing with what I was learning about myself. They would think I was losing my mind. I wanted to share, but knew I couldn't, at least not yet.